Alright, today's disclaimer has to do with hot things and electricity. You're going to be dealing with an electrical device that you are modifying outside of its normal use parameters. Don't be an idiot, be careful. You're not dealing with a lot of power, but once again, electric shock doesn't say I'm sorry, so be aware of what you're doing. Ultimately, if you're not comfortable dealing with an electrical device that you've modified, maybe you want to invest in a proper electrochemical etcher. This is for people who aren't idiots. So be careful. Also, when you're dealing with a soldering iron, it's really hot enough to melt metal. Be careful. Don't catch your shop or your house or yourself on fire. Be aware, be cautious, and do things in a way that keeps you and your property safe. Thank you. Okay, I'll take my piece of extension wire and strip the ends. And I'm going to do the same thing with the white wire and the black alligator connector. So I'll be, in this case, putting the red jacketed alligator clip on the black one, which is my positive wire. The black one will end up going on the white wire for negative. Like I said, generally red is hot. If it's black and white, then black is hot. Just a side note, and there may be variations out in the real world, but that's how I was taught, so that's what I'm going with. Alright, so the male portion will go on one end. See that there, I think. That goes right on my wire. And once that's in, I'll give that a quick compression. And the other side will get the alligator clip. So the next step is to slip your sheath over the wire and just set it right there at the bottom, and then prepare to put the post on the end of the wire. Alright, this is fairly small, but I'm hoping you can see this. In the bottom of that clip on the connecting portion, you've got a small hole there. I'm going to take my wire and from the inside slide that wire through to ensure that the actual jacket will go past the end of the copper or the prongs that are there that hold the wire in place. And then I will fold this wire back just like that. So if you can see that, the wire is through, the prongs are close enough for it to collapse on top of the wire. I'm going to fold it here in a second. And the wire itself is folded over the bottom of the alligator clip. That should hold it in place once I'm done soldering. Alright, so what I'm going to do is use my little pliers to actually press these spines down on top of the wire to hold it in place. That means it won't be jiggling around when I'm doing my soldering work, and gives it a nice strong hard point to hold it there. Me and my giant hands. So I will compress it but not crush it. So now you'll see, if you can, that the wire is in place. It's not going anywhere. It's held firmly, but I haven't pinched it so much that it might come off. Okay, I know it's a little blurry, blame my camera. But what I've done is I've taped down the alligator clip. The wire is ready for me to do it. I do that just to hold it in place and keep it vertical so that when I'm soldering it, the solder will just flow down onto the wire in the connector and not slide off the top. Alright, so my soldering iron has been sitting for a bit. It's nice and hot. I am now going to just apply some solder right to the end of that and fill it in. This may take a bit, but this is the reason I like the lightweight solder. Now I do recommend that you actually heat up your surface a bit. Keep the soldering iron tip on that metal so that the wire and the connector itself get some heat on it. This will allow the solder to flow into and onto and bond with your soldering surface. And this can be a little tricky, especially with my big hands and bad eyes. But you just keep at this until you get a nice solid solder of the wire to the connector. Alright, so I have completed my solder. I even see a little bit of the solder coming in the back side. Okay, I gotta be careful, my iron's hot. But I do want to mention that because you're soldering copper, copper will transfer the heat very quickly. So if you end up with a little bit of the tape melting on your alligator clip, just wipe that off while it's still warm. Be careful, don't burn yourself. So that's it. I mean, it's a very clean little solder. I don't know if you can see that too well. But that is not going anywhere, and now it's time to slip the shroud over that wire. So I've slipped the shroud back over the wire. I can squeeze it. You can see that open and close. I can slide it over completely if I want, slide it back if I need to. I will usually keep it pretty much right about there so that it's exposed, but still protected from any saline that might be flying around. I'll do the same thing on the other post, and we'll proceed. The shroud goes over my wire. The wire goes into the alligator clip and then folded over. The prongs are compressed. And the solder gets applied. And then you have your connected wire, and you just slip the shroud over the clip. So that gives me my 2 extension wires with alligator clips and male termination or connector points, and these will just get plugged into the wire that I've already finished. So it's real simple. I've got my black and white wires from the transformer side, and in this case, black is going to go to black, and you just slide that in there and connect it. I'm going to reverse that. That's one. And then you do white, slide that in there to connect it. And that means that I have my positive black wire to the red terminating post, or the alligator clip, and white negative to my black alligator clip. And that is ready to work. All I will need to do is connect the power supply, just like this, and then plug it in, which I'm not going to do now. There will be then the next video will be actually processing the doing the metal itself. I'll show you that with saline solution and Q-tips and the electrochemical etcher that we just made for about $8 in parts and maybe 30-40 minutes of my time at most. So this is a great way to do electrochemical etching on the cheap. I will actually later on have a video on what I do to create my stencils for applying the patterns to metal. That's a separate video as well. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and click and share and like the way you do everybody else. Bye now.